This is The Guide Gals, a modern, wedding-focused podcast by the experts at Here Comes the Guide. I'm Chelsea, a designer and inspired creative who's probably racked up over 8,000 hours on Pinterest, and the friend who's going to shoot it to you straight.
And I'm Caroline, a social media manager who is obsessed with dogs as ring bearers and will inevitably cry over your wedding video. We've seen it from all sides. We've been brides, planners, bridesmaids, and have worked with standout brands throughout the industry.
Think of us as an extension of your wedding party and hang out with us as we share the ins, outs, ups, and downs of the road to I Do.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Guide Gals podcast. We're excited to be here with another episode today, and we're going to dive into all things themed weddings and how to pull them off.
Yes, I'm really excited about this one, kind of because when I hear the term themed wedding, I do cringe a little bit, but that's, I think, just because there are so many ways for it to go like bad and like kind of be taken down a very strange path, but there are ways that you can do this in like a more elevated way and make it like a little bit more classy and timeless, and we're going to talk about how to do that today and how you can use like a theme to your benefit to make your wedding planning easier and make more of an experience for your guests.
Yes, yeah, because really there's a lot of times that idea of a theme that can really turn people off. Like there are weddings that do themes so well, and there are weddings that do themes in a way that's like, ooh, this feels like unnatural for a wedding to be done this way. It can feel more like just like a random event or a kid's party than an actual wedding.
Yeah, so we're going to chat, like I said, about ways that you can make this feel classy and timeless and really pull it off if it's something that you do want to do. So first in the episode, we're going to chat about the things that you're going to want to do to be able to pull off this themed wedding. And then we're going to finish things up with some of our favorite themes that we have seen lately or that we're kind of trending right now. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
I'm so excited to talk, especially the last part of the episode is going to be so good. We've thought a lot about these things and like how to pull off these themes, and it's really going to help you separate like the kind of, I hate to say tackier versions of themed weddings versus like really classy, elegant, timeless kind of theme. So before we even jump into anything else though, of course we're going to talk about beverages of the day. Mine is a classic take off of Chelsea now, because Chelsea has had a travel mug sometimes, and today I was like, I'm gonna do that, because I think it was like 2 or 3 episodes ago, my coffee was so watered down by the time we got to this point, and it was like tasted fine, but it wasn't like the ratios were off. So today it's actually all nice and chilled in this little travel mug, and it's just cold brew and sweet cream creamer.
Nice, that sounds really good.
It's very good.
And it's a really pretty color of your tumbler or whatever it's called. Yeah, your cup is a lot prettier than mine. I have a Starbucks coffee. I had to run some errands this morning, so of course one of the errands ended up being stopping to get a coffee, and I have a latte with caramel flavor in it, so it's pretty good. Switching it up lately.
Yeah, I guess you usually do vanilla, don't you?
I usually either do vanilla or hazelnut flavors in my coffees.
Yeah.
Feeling a little
You're
crazy.
usually vanilla or hazelnut, I think, are your classics. For me, it's usually like caramel, brown sugar. I'm a hoe for anything chai as well. Anything chai related, that's my thing. Which I don't think I've had a lot of on here. Wow, I'll have to bring that maybe next time. I'll bring that with me. Anyways,
yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, so now we're going to get into it. The first thing that you're going to want to think about if you're going to want to pull off a themed wedding is to try to keep things simple. So the first or biggest area that I think that we have seen things start to like lean into the cringy realm is when people get too specific or lean too heavily into things that are trendy at the time. So you know, trends are trends because they come and go, and some things like are repeating and maybe a new version of something that you've seen before. But one thing to remember about trends is that, yeah, they go. And so this can really make for stuff that doesn't necessarily age well, like maybe in photos, or like something that, yeah, if you're looking back on it in a few years, you're like, why did we do that? Like, why did that make sense? And why was that even popular at the time? So yeah, I think like a big piece of advice is to try to keep it more simple or maybe more overarching instead of being too specific on especially stuff that is super trendy.
Yeah. Because again, that's kind of where things can start to look like a kid's party or a kid's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. When I think about people who really get into every single detail of this and everything has this theme attached to it, from the favors to the signage to the attire sometimes. I guess for an example is like I think any theme can be done well. But if I'm thinking of someone doing like a Lord of the Rings themed wedding, um, I do think you can take pieces of that book, those movies, and make it really pretty. There's some jewelry in it that I think is like stunning from those. And if you're getting married in the woods, that I think could also lean into the theme. But if you get so granular instead of keeping it simple and make the groom wear like an outfit from the movie
A
and
costume.
like a costume like that's
yeah.
that feels like strange. It doesn't feel like a wedding. It feels like some cosplay is happening, which is fine if that's your vibe, really. But if you want to do a theme where it matches the like elegance and classicness while also incorporating this thing of yours, this theme, whatever it may be, it doesn't have to be as specific as Lord of the Rings. I don't know why that's the first thing that came to my mind, but it does kind of help, I think, us look at or imagine the differences when it comes to, can you do this in a classy way, or is this going to feel like a themed party for kids? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that we want to emphasize too that if your heart is set on doing a specific thing that might seem quirky to other people, then like go for it, totally do it. It's your special day and you can do whatever you want, truly. But our focus here is like trying to dive into creating a theme that feels like more of an experience and less of just like going to Party City and finding stuff that might match, like, you know, stuff like that. Like we want it to feel more elevated. So if you're wanting to achieve some sort of theme or feeling for your wedding, this is like the advice that we're trying to provide, like a theme or feeling for your wedding that just feels beyond maybe like going to a theme park or something like that. And having like more of a feeling involved instead of like a very specific like costumes and stuff like that. If you want it to feel more elevated, that's like kind of what we're exploring in this episode. But we don't want to yuck anyone's yum or anything like that. So
yeah, and really also, just so you guys know too, like I don't think I've ever mentioned this on other episodes before, but the song that I walked down the aisle to, you never would have known if you weren't into this like specific video game, but like it's an orchestral piece from like a Pokemon song, which is like so bizarre. And it like wasn't, I didn't play Pokemon growing up. My husband and his brothers loved it. So when I was walking down the aisle, his brothers were like looking at each other like, wait, is this like from,
and like, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that like where if people like know, it's like, oh my gosh, like that's so exciting. And like, but if people are not, you know, of the Pokemon crowd, then it doesn't seem like, oh, we got Pokemon going on in here. You know, it seems like, oh, that's a pretty song. You know, like, so there are ways to incorporate those things that maybe like feel really special to you or special to you guys as a couple. Maybe it's part of your love story in some way, without it being, or without it, feeling like cheesy or anything like that. And also being able to age really well when you look back on your media, like your photos and video and stuff like that from your day.
If you guys follow us on social media, I'll post the song on Instagram at some point for everybody to listen to.
Please
you can
do.
give me, let me know if you think it was cheesy or not. I'm gonna guess, at least I didn't think it was cheesy. It was beautiful in my mind, but if you think it's cringy, so be it. I don't care. Okay, so the next thing to think about is to run things past your venue. Of course, you want to talk to all of your vendors, but really we want you to talk to your venue as well, because you want to, of course, ask your florist, ask even your caterers, your designer, your planner about all of these details associated with whatever theme you want to accomplish. But really don't forget about your venue, because so much of that overall theme is going to be pulled together from the physical space. And honestly, they may have experience doing that before. A lot of venues will be able to take their space and transform it into what you want from it. And there's a lot of spaces that can be kind of pulled one way or the other. There are castles, I'm sure, that could be pulled into like a very like ethereal, magical, maybe like fairy vibe. But you could also dress it up as a very regal, very elegant, very put together luxury kind of vibe. Again, I don't know why I'm pulling everything into this like almost
Like a fantasy realm.
yeah, I guess I was basing it off
Yeah.
of that, but that doesn't just have to go for like those themes. It could also go for a very blank slate space. Could be pulled in so many different directions. So definitely run it past your venue first while you're also consulting with all of your other vendors.
Yeah, and another thing to remember too, so on that really positive side, of course, the people that work at your venue know it so well. Like they know it like the back of their hand. They're hosting events there all the time. So they will know like the best ways to be able to incorporate that. And yeah, like probably if you're trying to pull something off, especially visually with a theme, you're probably thinking of like the florist or like the decorator. You're talking to your planner about this if you have one. Definitely get that venue involved too, because they, like I said, they know the space really well and can maybe like help you, well, probably definitely help you execute it better than if you don't really communicate that with them. But also you want to make sure that there aren't any restrictions that they have, or if there are certain restrictions, like they might be able to like tell you a way that you can still make it happen, whatever you're trying to make happen, but like maybe they have to do it in a different way. So you don't want to end up breaking any rules or creating any surprises like for the venue staff, like when you get there to set up whatever it is that you're setting up. So yeah, like if you're gonna have like fire dancers or something, like for sure, like that you need to like clear things there with everybody involved. That's like something that like contracts probably have to be signed and all that anyway. But that's like a pretty extreme example. But yeah, make sure that you're not gonna be breaking any rules, or like before you get your heart set on anything, make sure that you're asking questions, so that way you don't get disappointed when you can't maybe do something exactly the way that you wanted to.
Right. And we've said this before and we'll say it again. Communication is key. Letting everybody know what your ideas are, keeping everyone on the same page is so important. And also, I think this is a good place for us to shout out and I'll kind of make the connection in a second, but how to brand your wedding episode is really, really good, especially for trying to accomplish a theme, because you're going to have to go through all of those keywords. You're going to have to go through images and the end product we talk about in that episode is that you have this mood board that you can then give to your venue, you can give to your vendors, keeping everybody on the same page, or at least your venue could say, okay, we can't quite do this thing that you have on here, but we could accomplish it in this way. So communication is key, getting people the right information, and also being willing to adjust if necessary is important.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, the next thing that you want to think about is you don't want the theme to end up taking away from or minimizing your guests' experience. So a lot of times, I mean, the point of having a themed wedding is to like make it feel like bigger and better than normal and make it like this special thing, like so, like a feeling that your guests have, or just, you know, something like a different experience, something that's really cool. But you have to be really careful that by having this theme, and this is really going to like depend on your guest list and all of that, you want to make sure that it's not like taking away from like the comfortability, if that's even a word, or like accessibility for your guests. It can be very easy to get like these really big, like grandiose ideas that go along with your theme that really really take a step back and figure out if like is this going to make things tough for people? Is it going to make it tough for you? Like, are people going to be complaining? Are people going to be uncomfortable? Yeah, it's something to think about.
For sure. And here I am thinking about the Lord of the Rings again. I like need to shut up about it. But when I'm thinking about, okay, if you do want to have that type of theme for a wedding and you want to hike out far out in the woods for this, but you are inviting grandma and grandpa, they have a way to get to your venue ceremony setup, or are they going to have to hike out with you? Because if you really want that experience, great. But also that is probably going to take away from maybe them even being able to attend. And so you want to think about that. And I think we've said this before with like the adventure kind of style weddings. If you are hiking out in a national park, it doesn't have to be Lord of the Rings themed. Like,
but it could
why
be.
can I? Yeah, could be. But you definitely want to keep that in mind, the accessibility for
Yeah.
those people who may not be able to do that same type of adventure out to a ceremony space. So just something to keep in mind while you're making those plans.
Yeah, and like definitely think of your guests, but seriously think of yourself too. Like in that
Mm-hmm.
exact example, like hiking out to like you're going to hike out to your ceremony spot. That is like really a cool idea, especially like if you're adventurous and like you do that the hiking kind of people. Are you going to be wearing a long dress and are you going to ruin it? What kind of shoes are you going to wear? Are you going to have a change of shoes to hike out there? Like you don't want to end up getting like feeling frustration like oh my gosh like I can't believe I just ripped my dress or I just got mud all over my dress like of course you did, you're hiking out
Yeah.
into nature.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean like really like because it really is easy like when you get these great ideas and you're like oh that would be so cool, just make sure and like think of the logistics for it too because there are ways to like simply tweak that like oh you know what, we are going to have some sort of shuttle to get out there. Like maybe wherever you work, there's like golf carts or something that can like get people from point A to point B.
Totally.
So yeah, I mean, like there's probably a solution there, but make sure that you've really thought all of the details through.
Mm-hmm.
Another place to kind of be cautious, I think about are like really like explorative menus. Like if you're having some sort of themed menu and you're having a bunch of food that people aren't used to eating, are they gonna like it? Like you know what I mean? Like and maybe it's like so delicious, maybe it's
Yeah,
your favorite food, and of course like it's your wedding, you should be able to make the decisions that you want to make,
for
but
sure.
I don't know, like sometimes people it just might make people like uncomfortable, or like you'll have a bunch of food that you spent so much money on it's not really getting eaten, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe like you're not even enjoying it so much, like oh I went with this really fancy option but like actually I don't know, like maybe I'd have a better time eating the simpler thing that like isn't kind of like making me have like a rumbly tummy. So yeah, lots of stuff to think about because yeah, it is really easy to just get so carried away with all of that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can make little tweaks here and there to make sure that it's not ending up like taking away from the overall experience.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so now this is the fun part of the episode. We're going to break down some of these themes that you could potentially execute. We're talking more general themes. We're not going to tell you how to
Yeah.
execute a Lord of the Rings styled wedding, although apparently I already have, so whatever. But
Well, and also like with all of these different themes that we have, you can even pair something like Lord of the Rings. You can say like, "Oh, hey,
true.
you know, I'm like looking through my list that I have here. Where does Lord of the Rings fit in here? But you might find one of these that like pairs well with something that's like a little bit more specific or something that
Yeah.
relates more to you and your relationship, and you can
Mhm.
kind of roll with that. And these are things that we're seeing are, you know, a little bit more popular as of
Mhm.
now. But none of
Yeah.
these things are so trendy, like we mentioned at the top of the episode, that they wouldn't age well. Like these are things that, and they're very overarching, like broad ideas.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and we could probably even
yes.
give you some examples of like we'll go through this general kind of theme and maybe we can pair it, or you can let us know in the comments how you would pair it with a specific like more specific theme. But the first one I'm going to break down is romantic. So, of course, romantic can be done in a couple of different ways, but some of the ways that I imagine some of this romance being played out in a theme is bows. You guys have
Yes.
to know we love bows. That is
Mhm.
just something that is a huge part of us. If you look at any of our branding photos, you'll notice we have bows on in quite a few of
Yeah.
them.
And like behind us too.
Oh,
Somewhere on here.
yeah.
There are both.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Oh, mine's right here. I don't know if you can see it. Mine.
Yeah, I think I have one right there too.
Oh, twins.
It is the
Duh.
same pattern,
It is the
just
same
flipped
thing.
colors. So, yeah, that makes sense.
So we're hiding the bow from you, but it's on there. This adds like a detail of like sweet elegance. I think it's like so girly and fun, but it is romantic, and especially the different ways that you can accomplish. Like you can do a big organza bow, you can do soft satin, you can do something more like linen-y. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to accomplish even that. A lot of the imagery being like this storytelling aspect, feeling like a fairy tale, I feel like, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And delicate floral, something that feels maybe a little bit more whimsical. I love flowers, so I imagine sweet peas and peonies, and in very like soft muted tones, maybe some pastels, and then soft golden hour lighting. That's just like perfect. And especially with the like storytelling imagery. I don't know, I'm having a hard time saying that. That just feels like magic to me.
Yeah.
Of course, we would need some calligraphy in here, and then very meaningful decor items, things that you can see the intention behind, everything feeling. Again, I feel like this to me is fairy tale. This is fairy tale vibes. This is like, you could do a theme like a princess theme with this without it being like outright, this is Cinderella themed. But you can make all of the details kind of mimic those of like a Cinderella character and make it just full of romance and whimsy.
Yeah, I think that this is a theme, like a romantic theme. It's like definitely never going to go out of style. There's so many classic details that you just mentioned and things that seriously are so timeless. But I think that there are ways to incorporate the stuff that's kind of trending a little bit more in this one. And I mean, all of the different themes that we're going to talk about, this is true for. But like the bows, like I don't think bows are necessarily ever going to be out of style, but they definitely are trending right now. And people are using them in like so many different ways, and they're so creative with it too. And I love it. But yeah, it's just one of those ways that it can be like really timeless. And like this one, just like if we're gonna like pick like a movie or a TV show or a book that we can like pair it with, like you could even think like, I don't know, if you like Bridgerton. I never watched that show, but like if you're like, oh, I want to have a Bridgerton themed wedding, like, oh, I would really enjoy being invited to that. Like that'd be so cool. Or I don't know what, that's the one that's coming to mind when we're talking about all of this.
Bridgerton, I'm thinking Jane Austen, I'm thinking
oh my gosh,
Regency styled stuff. Like, ooh, yeah. No, sign me up, invite me to that. I'll get remarried to do that. That sounds so nice. Yeah, I love that theme.
Okay, the next one that I'm going to talk about is Moody and Intimate. And this, I think, is just actually my favorite style when it comes to weddings. Like the photography, everything. Like it's just really like matches my, like the style that I'm personally drawn to. But with this one, I really see like pairing well with more of like an elopement or a small wedding. So with this, you might have a smaller guest list, maybe just like a really close knit one. I love the idea of that. It just like makes me automatically picture people just sitting like at like a big picnic table and everyone just like visiting with each other, and it's like that's the whole group that's there. I don't know why that comes to mind, like, but yeah. And then even like a cozy micro wedding venue, so a smaller space for sure brings like that intimacy in as well. This is something to watch out for too. Like if there are so many beautiful venues that will accommodate like all sizes of weddings, and because they do have the space to accommodate big and small guest lists. But this is something to be careful of. So if you're really wanting that like intimate, close-knit feel, you want to make sure that whatever venue that you're using has a space that this works for and that like creates this feeling. I mean, you lose that intimacy immediately if you're in just like this big like regal area, like with all of this space. It takes away from it. But there are ways that venues can like, bring sizes down. Maybe they have a different space. They can like use like the linens to like block things off and just like really transform the space for you. So I don't know, that's just something there to think about. But like a deep color palette here, I see like maroons or like the like deep like earthy greens. I feel like, I don't know, maybe like there are lots of directions you could go with that, but like that really like deep saturated color. Also you can like antique or like heirloom decor is really cool, especially like lots of bonus points if this is actually stuff that's yours and has meaning to you. Of course, like incorporating that is always so cool. And then I think I mentioned like candlelight earlier, but like if there's a fireplace involved or candles, whether they're real or fake, a lot of places I don't think allow real candles, but yeah, that definitely gives you that like moody, like the lights are down low and still that like cozy intimate feel. And then a lot of like linens involved too, just like really brings that like like cozy, warm feeling. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Oh,
those are
I
a lot
love
of
it.
ways you can achieve that.
Yeah, and I do feel like that really is your vibe. And I love that, like,
Yeah, I love it.
all the details. And I guess the thing I was thinking too, like, of course this can be just done in this way, but also I could imagine this being turned into I don't know, like almost like a, I don't want to say mystery element, but I guess like I guess I am thinking of a specific venue. If anyone is near the Pittsburgh area, Mansions on 5th, mwah, they have on-site accommodations. They have this, like, it is just this space, feels like, I mean, it is an old mansion, but it feels like it's something taken out of a mystery novel or something, like if you know Knives Out, the first movie. It feels kind of like that. And I could imagine you bringing all of your favorite people together. It's like a really intimate space, and just being able to have like the best time, and having all, like, being surrounded by these antique Moody elements, this like deep dark wood. Yeah, I don't know, that's like the where my mind went to first for like this theme. But
Yeah, I love that. And then another thing to think about too is as we like go through these themes and as you think up whatever theme that you have, I think that it's important. My mind always goes to photography and like videography as well. I'm just going to group those into one category. But
yeah.
when you're looking for the photographer, videographer that you want to use to capture your day, you want to make sure that their style matches the style that you want to achieve look wise. So if you're wanting, a photographer that does like this like really bright, colorful stuff typically, look at their portfolio, make sure it reflects that, because you should never really expect them to veer too far from their style, because that's what makes them special, and like that's what makes them desirable to hire. So I would say definitely try to match your media style with like the talent, not the talent, but their style with your vision, because then this like the pictures and the video captured is really going to emulate like that feeling that you had during your event.
Yeah. Okay, so the next theme we're going to talk about is European elegance. And of course, the venue is going to be a huge part of achieving this kind of theme. And shameless plug, Here Comes the Guide does have an amazing list of these types of venues. Seriously, I got to work on it the other day, and oh my gosh, any of those venues, sign me up. I'm there. They are
Yeah, and they're
stunning,
in the
beautiful,
United
gorgeous.
States too.
Yes.
Like these are
Yeah.
not in Europe. Like it's stuff that has the
Yes.
feeling of Europe without having to go to Europe. So they
So
do
true.
exist.
Yes, and they're so good. Honestly, like, wow, I need to shut up about it, but they're so beautiful. And you want to give, if you want to really truly accomplish that European elegance vibe, you can have a slower pace. You can have a very relaxed feel. That is something that I think a lot of events have, or even just like traveling in Europe. Like, that is the overall vibe that I got, at least. There's also a sense of like quiet luxury, and the difference really is like when I think of something that's like very glam and luxury, like you see it. There's sparkle, there's elegance, everything is big and bold and beautiful still. But I think I do lean towards more of the quiet luxury, things that like it's in these little details that make a big impact. Yeah, we could go on and on about that, but that's a little bit of the difference. And very classic design. You're going to see things from the florals to the linens to the chair choices that are classics. They are classics. They are elegant. I think a lot of it too will have high-end textiles. They are going to feel classier, higher end. Not to say that like you can't accomplish that look without the highest end textiles or things, but that's definitely something to think about. Of like, okay, we want beautiful like heavy satin. We want this beautiful lace detailing here. Not overdone, but just like simple. And then also I think warm neutrals is really what I think of. When I think of like these old European castles, when I think of different details, when I think of Sophia Richie's wedding.
Yeah.
I'm very much giving that European elegance. There are a lot of warm neutrals in that, from the venue itself to the colors they chose for their overall look. I think that is a good example of it.
Yeah, and I think a big key with that, especially like Caroline said, like those warm neutrals, like you're really letting the space that you choose kind of speak for itself and like give you that. So I think if your theme is that European elegance or something along those lines, I think that choosing the venue is going to be probably the biggest piece of the puzzle there, because when you do have that venue, it gives the vibes that you're looking for automatically, and you don't have to go overboard. You can keep things like nice and simple, and you don't have to incorporate a bunch of different colors, and you can just really have things neutral and let the space be the space. So
Right.
okay, the next one that I have, or that I'm going to talk about, is bold and unique. So we do have, I'm going to talk about Here Comes the Guide again too. So we have articles that for most areas throughout the United States that mention and call out unique wedding venues. So one thing is like an unconventional venue really could pair well with this like bold and unique kind of thing. So, and even there are lots of places that you can get married that aren't just, you know, like a banquet hall or like a traditional wedding venue. Like there are lots of options that you have. One venue that comes to mind, and I believe that they have locations across the United States, is Pinstripes. It's actually like a bowling alley, but they do have weddings there, and that's just so cool and like a built-in activity for your guests too. We also love Graduate Hotels. They have like kind of like a quirky element to every one of them, and those are across the country as well, so really cool spaces. But yeah, I think that the venue choice there is really going to lend to, if you're wanting a unique feel, it'll really help out with that. Out of the box outfits as well, which you don't have to go super crazy, but you might be able to like add a pop of color here and there. Like maybe you have a special accessory that you're going to use, or maybe your wedding party is wearing something that's like a little bit unconventional. That can be cool, and you can really like lean into, I don't know, like a use of a certain color, or if you have like really like a certain theme in mind, that's a place where you might be able to like subtly show it off. You can also experiment with unique seating arrangements. I've seen where like the couple's in the middle and there's like everyone sitting around them. That's really cool. You can have, I mean, there's lots of ways to structure that. I think if you just went on Pinterest and searched unique seating arrangement wedding ceremony, a lot of ideas would pop up, but there's some really cool stuff. And then that also might depend on your venue. They might have like more like something that makes more sense if you want to have an alternative seating, but that can be really cool and just make for like more of an interesting experience. But yeah, you can incorporate experiential entertainment as well, which is really similar to what I just mentioned with like Pinstripes. Like maybe your venue has activities that your guests can do. You can even get married at museums or art galleries. It's really cool because a lot of times they do give your guests access, like you and your guests access to like explore certain parts of the museum or the gallery, and that gives like such a cool experience, I think, especially if your guests are into history, like if it's some sort of history museum. So cool. See that stuff. Or art, if people like art. I mean, obviously an art gallery be really cool. And then with the decor, a lot of like using patterns and textures, and I just see this being like really quirky and colorful, and like there are so many ways that you can really bring out personal touches and your personality in these different things. And then audio guest books, or like really just alternative guest books too, are just such a cool idea. But the audio guest book is really cool. Like I think there's a company, and I don't know the company name, but I think that there's someone who created this, but it looks like an old like, but like a phone, like
Yes.
not a cell phone, like a landline, like a phone. I'm gonna like sound really dumb to like anyone older than me, but like people can leave a voicemail basically for you and like give you like say something funny or share a memory or whatever. So you're able to like listen back to that. I think I've even seen that kind of stuff being incorporated into, like they pair it with the videographer, and then it can like certain messages can be edited into your wedding video and stuff like that. So yeah, that stuff's all super like breaking tradition, but such cool stuff.
So cool. The last theme from me is going to be a kind of groovy styled theme. Of course, we've seen a lot of disco balls lately, so that's going to be kind of a front and forward, part of your decor possibly for this type of theme. And it also could, and I think it definitely should, incorporate some sort of retro typography. I think this is a great place to tie the theme in. Really looking at like, yes, that seems like a really granular detail, it can take the theme to the next level. If you have really fun typography, really fun, unique colors too, I think paired with that is awesome. And then also, like, outside of the wedding itself, you could have a 70s themed bachelorette or bachelor party. Like, you could
So fun.
continue on that theme for other associated parties. And I think that is so fun to see. And I love, like, again, we will talk all about bachelorette and bachelor party themes. If you want us to, just let us know. And then vintage or thrifted attire. I think this one is so cool and unique because anytime I see these vintage and thrifted wedding attire things, especially if it's very much on that theme, it's show-stopping. I can think of so many dresses or so many styles that I've seen, maybe not even from the attire itself, but if you can match your vintage dress with a like hairstyle that goes along with that time period or theme, it just pulls it to another level. And I love, love, love seeing that. Another cool detail really could be your DJ is playing from vinyl records. If that is something that you and your partner love, I think that is really cool. A really great way to incorporate that theme, but also maybe incorporate something you love. And shiny metallics all over, of course, with the disco ball, but also in other ways as well. I think this can be done in such a way that like ties it all together and this perfectly groovy theme.
Yeah, that's really fun. Just like any of that like retro stuff I think is really cool. And for some reason it almost makes me think it could be like beachy too. And I don't know if I'm like just wrong in like the pairing there, but like I don't know, like it makes me think of like surfy kind of stuff, like I don't know.
I do love that. I think that like groovy retro beach is so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, the last one that I am going to talk about, we are calling Western chic as a theme. So I think that we have really just as a society, we have really shifted away from the words rustic and like barn, like, so those really had their heyday. And I wouldn't say it's totally out or anything, like there's still beautiful weddings, like, you know, using those words
For sure.
but I think that what is really it's kind of shifted into is like more of this just like Western feel. So I mean, like using like cowboy boots, hats, bolo ties, a lot of those like, you know, same elements, but yeah, it's just feeling like kind of like the Wild West a little bit more. Farm to table cuisine is really cool. Yeah, just like, and now I'm picturing the dinner portion, you're outside on tables, like in the grass, like in a field. Like I'm trying to paint a picture here because that's what's going on in my head. Probably incorporating a really organic feeling color palette. So lots of natural colors, like maybe like browns, like deep reds. I see like could come in there. Really relaxed attire, I think too. So like more casual even for the bridegroom wedding party, maybe like less like super elegant. Maybe you wouldn't see any like, you know, glitter or like big poofy skirts or anything. Just maybe like, yeah, just like a really like natural feel there. And maybe for your guests as well. An outdoor ceremony probably too. I know I just like spoke about like picturing like eating outside and dancing outside, like under the stars kind of thing. But, and then hints of coastal elements too. So that's something that we've seen a lot. Like the coastal cowgirl trend really affected us in a great way, I think. And I think that those details have really begun to translate into like lots of areas, fashion, home decor, but also weddings. So yeah, I think that's like a really cool one. And it's a way too that if you feel still like connected and drawn to like more of like that rustic, like barn, like almost like farmhouse feel that is kind of like feeling a little bit dated, like this is the way to incorporate that theme while still feeling like of the times and feeling like this is something that like can age well too. So
for sure. There are so many more themes that we could talk about. I do love the Western chic. That one is like probably between, oh, I don't know, because I do love European elegance. I don't know. There's so many good themes and there are so many that we didn't even touch on. I feel like there are like, I could imagine this more like dark academia in a library. Like
so fun.
Yes. What is it? Is it the Boston Library that is like stunning, beautiful, gorgeous? Yeah. There are so many themes that we could chat about more so. And if there are any that you want to hear about, please let us know. Again, bachelor themes are like ones that we didn't even touch on either. There are so many ways to incorporate this. And I do think honestly, like choosing a theme, choosing some sort of guideline like this helps you make decisions way more. Like, I think it's a good thing to think about that. And we do talk about that in our branding episode. It's kind of like, what do you want your keywords to kind of be? It's very similar in that range of thinking, but these themes are so fun for you, for your guests, and could ultimately make the planning process easier.
Yeah, it really does just give you like a set of guidelines that you can follow, which, I mean, making decisions when it comes to wedding planning is really not an easy task. So anything that helps that and makes everything feel really cohesive and intentional in the end is really good. But yeah, this was a super fun episode. I think I say that every time because I really do think that these things are really fun. If you guys have any questions on the episode or have any episode suggestions, want to share anything with us, you can reach out to us on our contact page on our website, which is theguidegalspodcast.com. You can also find us on Instagram. You can reach out to us there too at The Guide Gals Podcast. We are on YouTube, so all of our episodes do have a video version as well, and that's on the Here Comes the Guide YouTube channel. We're also on TikTok at The Guide Gals Pod. And we on our website too, we have a full episode library, lots of other things that we cover, and a full freebie library, lots of free resources that you can download there. But yes, I think that's all we have for you now. And until next time.
Until the next fun episode. Until next week.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.